Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction. And I want to start with a question for you. How long, and if you guys could share this in the chat, how long do you think it takes the average business to generate a profit? So as you're sharing that in the chat, let me just kind of give you an idea a lot about how some businesses work. So if I want to have a McDonald's franchise, first I'm going to have $1 million at least just for the franchise fee, right? And then I'm going to have all these expenses like land and building the facility and everything that you need to be able to run a business. And so what happens is there's a profit time frame. Now, by the way, your managers are invested in their business. Now, there's no franchise fee here. It's actually the opposite. Your managers get money to help them run the business. But what I want you to understand is if you're working in a branch office, it's a new startup. If you're an assistant manager in a veteran office, many times there's a wave of, hey, we're going to slow down recruiting. People are busy with finals, and then we're going to ramp it up. And so many times what happens is that all the momentum that's going on in the spring, it kind of slows down because the focus for students is finals and the focus for managers is building the team. So what I want you to understand is how our summer typically flows in most offices. By the way, it's different all over the place, and some offices, it operates differently, but I'm going to share some examples with you so you understand how the summer flows. What's really incredible about our business, I want to share this with you. We had branch managers that their very first week last year were turning a profit. I remember when I started as a branch, they said, hey, takes the average company 3 to 5 years. You in 2 months can generate a profit. I'm like, okay, after 2 months, I actually can start making money. And it just kept coming back closer and closer and closer. And where we had branch managers, and most of you are going to be able to feel this opportunity next year, where we had branch managers in our region, multiple people making over $20,000 running a business, not including what they made off of their personal sales. So it's a really exciting time to be running a branch. And again, especially with the perk of making 50% off personal sales, straight 50, July, August, September. So what I want to, again, that's off. I go off on tangents. I apologize. But what I want to talk about is how the waves of the summer come. And most of you, this is going to be, some of you are veteran assistants or sales managers. But most of you, this is your first summer in a leadership role. Okay. So let me just share with you, okay, how the summer operates. And I think it's first of all, just to go, hey, what are my expectations for how this summer is going to flow? And I want you to just do this for a moment. I want you to write down, hey, this is how I envision it from your perspective. Now, you may have talked with your district or branch manager or division manager, and you already have a guide of how the summer is going to flow, but write it down anyway. What do you think? What do you see happening? When do you see your office? I'd like you to write this down. What week is going to be the best week of the summer? Think about that. Is it in June? Is it in July? Is it in August? And it's different everywhere. Okay, I'll share this with you. My first branch I ran, my biggest month was August. My second biggest month was July. My third biggest month was June, because we just kept building. And my smallest month was May. My second branch, it was the exact same. Many times now in my business, we usually peak in July because we ramp up for an SC2 push. Plus all the assistants get out of the office and go crazy and sell a ton. Most of you are going to sell 10,000. Some of you are going to be selling over 20,000 during the SC2 push. almost all of you will sell over 10,000. Some of you may not have sold since last summer and you're like, I don't know. You will, right? We always prepare people the right way. And so that's going to happen. SC1, most of you are going to get an opportunity. A lot of you are going to sell over 10,000 for SC1 as well. But what I want to share with you of how things work in the office. This is kind of a typical activity that you'll see happen. What we do is we have effort that we put in. And effort, results always follow effort. If you think about anything you've done, right, the results come after the effort. Those of you that lift weights, like working out, you don't go lift weights one time and all of a sudden you have this great physique. It's constantly working at it, effort, 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 and then results follow. Some people in business, when they're young, right, don't understand how a business will unfold. So again, why do most people not start a business is because it takes so much effort for such a long period of time before the profit is there. Okay. What I want to share with you is we put in effort and a lot of effort and the results slowly climb. It's sporadic climbing of results. And that's what you're going to see happen this summer in most cases. Some offices get up there real fast. I know last year, North Shore was like, boom, up there and like stayed up there. And it was really exciting. Wins a Silver Cup, #1 office in the entire company in new business. But there was a lot of effort that took place in March and April. So it did take off like that. We're putting in the effort right now. Back then, everybody was available. As students are getting done with school, people are in school, we need to put in more effort than we did last year to create the results. We can get the exact same results, but it just takes more effort. And so how your office does will be directly related to the effort that you put in. And what I want you to understand is your effort and the results in your office and your income off of what the office does will be behind, and then it will shift. So let me give you an example. We're focused on recruiting. This is going to be effort. Hey, I'm helping out with interviews. I'm doing advertising. You're doing less of what we used to do. We used to go to malls and pass out business cards. We'd go to college campuses and go all over the place and pass out business cards. And that effort isn't happening to the degree that it used to. Okay. But we're doing everything via social media. It's just very easy to get that information out there. But that's an important part of effort. It doesn't take effort. It just takes a little bit of time to get messages out and respond. It takes the effort of personal recruiting people. It takes the effort of helping other people recruit people. And that effort that we put in and that time in helping throughout the interview process, that as an assistant manager is really high. And then as we start getting representatives doing well, and then we start getting representatives doing well, another big key to that is field training and working with reps and coaching reps. And we get all these new reps on the team. And as that happens, we hit this perfect pass of where the results start to happen. Now, effort usually stays higher than kind of like, it doesn't drop like this. I'm just not good at charts, right? The effort will kind of come like this. And then in July, when SC2 hits, here's what the experience our assistant managers have in my office and in many offices, where there'll be one or two that are just focused on effort, and their effort is here. Okay. And that's what they do. Usually it's someone who is the sales manager training to be either a district manager or a branch manager. Okay. And so they'll stay in the office and they'll do 100%. And every other assistant manager in the office, in our office, it's like, you go sell. This is your opportunity to shine and show the team how good you are and really reap the rewards of all of this effort, because then an assistant manager is getting paid. Now, when I say that, they're not out of the office completely. They'll be working 1 to 2 days a week. So less effort in the office. And not only are they getting paid off the office, they're also earning all the income off their personal sales. Okay. It's a really exciting time. July SC2 push is very exciting. What's even more exciting is August, because getting a chance to still work in the office and put some effort in and learn and be able to develop skills. In August is learning how to run an office. It's preparing for that next year while the income where you have plenty of time to go sell, and you're at your highest commission you've ever been at, and the job is easier than it's ever been because of SC2. It's not a lot of effort to get a high income. So that's the path. And I want you to be aware of that, because there's going to be moments in almost every assistant manager's career. I remember this as the pilot sales manager, where I was putting in a lot of effort and the income wasn't equal to the effort. But what I knew what was coming and was told to me many times is there's going to be a point in time where my income way exceeded my efforts, and it pays off, and it pays off exponentially. So I want you to be aware of that. I'm going to show you kind of how some summers flow in offices, just so you can really see and understand this. And I took these from offices that are in our region, and I took it from 2 years ago, because last year was kind of an outlier year where students they weren't in school, so they started earlier. Now, the first few examples I'm going to give you are all branch offices. This is a college student running an office over the summer, having their first training class. And then they go out and they sell $733 in the second week of May. Then in the third week of May, they have 5 people that go through training. And they do $3,000 in business. And then they have 5 more people that they add to the team. And the assistant managers are helping create these representatives coming into the office, and they're helping with the coaching to help them succeed. Field training makes this spike at a higher level, but this office did 4,600 this week, and then 5,000 when they had 9 launch. And here's where we really need to dive in and do the field training, because we've got these new 21 people that just went through training for the month. And you'll notice this office did a little over 13,000 for the month. Now, if we look at last year, this is a below average office, but still it's a good, very successful, profitable office. The next week, they had 6 people go through training, and then 2, and then 2. You'll notice the sales start catching up and start growing even when they stopped recruiting. They didn't run an interview or a training after week 3 of June. And so they had 31 representatives and you'll see 23,000. They peaked here the first week of the SC2 push. This is the second week of the SC2 push, and this was the last week of the SC2 push, or the last few days. And they did 24,000. That was their best month. And because they weren't recruiting here, all of a sudden, everything started to drop here. It started catching up for the lack of adding people to the team, and they did about 13,000. So May and August ended up being very similar, $74,000 branch. That year, that was actually a little above average. Their average rep, as you can also see, the average rep in the office earned more or sold over a little over $2,000. Okay, let's take a look at the next example here. And I'm going to go through this one pretty quickly with you because you get the concept. This office wasn't even open right now. They weren't open until week 4 of May, okay, where they ran their first training class, and those 4 people went out and averaged over $1,000 a person. Okay, actually, they had 4 people that finished training the week before. They all went out and sold that week, and they went out and sold $4,000. Then they had 10 more people finish training. Those 10 sold, along with the rest of the team, sold $4,800, and they were at $9,000. They had 6 people. You see the sales go up. They had 11. They peak in the month at 12,000 because they peaked at recruiting. One of your jobs is when we hit a recruiting number, always the next week, we have to have more set for training. We have to drive that fire number up higher. So imagine if this wasn't a 6 and this was another 11. This would have probably been like 15 to 20,000 in sales. And if this would have been another 11 in week, and it's all about that PR activity, that fire number that we do that allows this to continue to grow. And then, but as you can see, it's 8,000. The week 1 of July, there was a little bit of a dip, but check out what the entire team did. The people that had finished training, SC2 comes around, and then everybody gets excited about the push. And they go out and sold almost $20,000. This is a college student running a business. And then 7,500 the second week. In the last few days, they really kicked it in gear because this is typically done in the last few days of the push with nobody finishing training. Again, best month. And then when the push was over, things slowed down. Unfortunately, there was a couple, 1 or 2 returned orders, and then $4,222. And then 401, lack of recruiting. The manager was probably back at college right here. Okay, you can kind of see when someone goes back to college in a branch office. But they did just right about 100,000. Again, these 2 months very similar. This was the second biggest month, and then this was the biggest month because they kicked it into gear. 53 representatives. On average, they sold about 2,000, just a little shy of 2,000 per person. Okay. So let's take a look at a second year branch. I wanted to share this with you, and you might get a little confused on this. So this is 3 years ago. This is 2 years ago. This branch manager now is a district manager in the North Star division. Okay. But I want to share this with you so you can kind of see some of these numbers here and the improvement. And what was different is he just got things going a little bit quicker, ran a training class a week earlier. This is the growth. So this is that year, this is the following year, and this is how much they grew from one branch to the next. So when, just to share with you, when you run your first branch, it's very common for a lot of branch managers, including myself. I almost doubled sales from one year to the next. This didn't almost double, but grew by 44%, really impressive. And this person is doing extremely well as a district manager, was the number 2 new district manager in the central region last summer. Anyway, to go back through this, as you can see how the recruiting happens, 2, 4, 6, 5, nothing big, but just consistency. And then 5, 4, and then they hit 12. What I want you to notice is how the sales happen. Sales growth is really exciting here. 19,000, 12,000, a little bit of a dip. This training class popped really good. I'm assuming the assistant managers in the office took several people field training and really coached people up really well. But then they had a little bit of a drop. And then they had 4 people that went to 14,000. Then they launched 12 and 8, 20 people over a 2-week time frame. And notice what happens. 10 and then $34,000. This is not during any push whatsoever, but $34,000 month or week in June. Okay. So they ended up doing 67,000 in the month of June. And then notice the flow. This was the 4th of July week. So there's a little bit of a pullback. Maybe some people went out of town, but again, they also only launched 5, and then the push began. 35,000 and 34,000 and then 25,000. Finished the push strong. And by the way, you have massive influence on here. What I love about this branch manager is they continue to recruit through the month of July. And I can promise you all the assistant managers were focused on helping recruit in July. And that's why those 19 recruits allowed them to have this $100,000 plus month. And again, this is a college student. And then they had 2 people go through training and continued to focus on working after the push and did 55,000. This month was almost as big as this month, even though they only had 3 people go through training. Again, the job becomes easier because we're not as focused on recruiting, especially in a branch office. In a district office, it's a little bit different. In a district office, if we're recruiting through here, this number would have been bigger than June. Okay, possibly as big as July if that focus was there. But this is a very successful office at about $280,000 in business. All right, so I wanted to share that with you. And then lastly, I'm going to share a district office. Now, this is 2 years ago. This is 3 years ago. This is 4 years ago. I'm sorry, that's wrong. This is 2 years ago. This is 3 years ago. This, I wanted to share it with you because every summer is different. Sometimes an office can have a little bit of a dip. That's okay. By the way, I'm only showing you what's new business. This is not total business. This is only new business. What is very apparent, you'll notice, I'm just going to show you the months. Okay. And I'm sorry, this is what was, this is 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and 4 years ago. What I'm going to share with you is you'll see 59,051, 94 and 75, 73 and 131. So they were well ahead. They were up 15%, 26%. And then there was a dip here in July. Let me show you when that happens. Okay. And this is a really successful district office that last year blew these numbers out of the water. Okay. But that's because they had a focus in July recruiting. And you influence this in late June and July recruiting. You'll notice the numbers start to go down when they were up. As of here, they're up in recruiting. And then all of a sudden here, things went the opposite way, down 8, down 8, down 8, down 1. And then all of a sudden there is the, what's happening is we're not adding fuel to the fire, and the focus of the SC2 push, especially from an assistant manager standpoint, probably wasn't there as strong. Okay. And again, it's a very, by the way, this is a great office. This is fantastic. It's almost the same as the office I showed you before, but you compare it sometimes to different years, right? These are all new business years. And this year was when we had the lowest unemployment that we've ever seen in our country. Now we have one of the highest unemployments we've ever seen in our country. So that's really exciting for you. But as you'll see that most summers, most offices, this office included, usually had their best month in July, while assistants were able to go out and sell during the push in new business. And many of their assistants were not new business. This is an outlier year where their June was their peak and July went down some. Okay. You'll also notice a stronger August because of recruiting, and you influence that. I want you to understand you influence that. You also influence the sales because of field training and coaching reps and really diving in. What happens, any organization that's successful, it's because everybody pulls together in the recruiting area and the sales area. Let me just kind of give you a little relationship. There's the story of Clydesdales. One's Clydesdale, there's a certain amount of weight they can pull. 2 Clydesdales pulling together will pull the equivalent of 3 Clydesdales, or of the weight of 3 Clydesdales. So I want you to understand that's what happens when we work together and everybody is invested and works as a team. And so these are the key areas that are really going to help you in understanding the waves. You can create this flow and keep building to maybe even make August. Imagine if you're building like this, and then August becomes the biggest month because of what you put into it. It's really exciting because less effort and higher results. Okay. So who has the influence? I want to share with you, you have massive influence. You have massive influence because of what you do in the office, how hard you work. Okay. So how? Recruiting. I want you to write this down. How do I influence the recruiting? What kind of influence can you have? How can you help create and get that peak faster? More effort gets the peak faster. By the way, more effort, it's not, I want to make sure you understand time and effort. Anybody can show up to do something. It's the effort we put in when we show up. Also sales. I'll share with you one of the best summers ever was a few summers ago in my office when Colin Kennebeck and Jack Murphy came back from college as assistant managers. And right away, Jack has a $4,000 week. Colin struggled his first week getting back. Jack had just popped right away. Colin was really frustrated his first 10 days. And he's like, I don't know if I'm good at this anymore. And I'm like, you are. You're at 16,000 in sales. You can totally do this. And then all of a sudden, Colin took off. Colin ended up selling $70,000 while working about 15, 20 hours a week in the office. So what I wanted to share with you, leading by example, what happened? Everybody else took off. Colin sold 70, Jack sold over 40. So we had a new representative, Ryan Muehlfeld, who sold over 50 because he saw what other people were doing. Your leading by example is huge. Leading as much as you can. Whatever role you are in, you want to lead by example. You want to be a leader, right? There's a difference between a boss and a leader. You're not a boss. You'd never want to be someone's boss. Okay, you want to be a leader. Bosses are demands. Leaders are coaches. They help people get to where they want to be. Bosses rely on relies on their authority. Okay, leaders relies on goodwill. Bosses will say this or this. A leader generates excitement and enthusiasm towards a common cause. Bosses say I, leaders say we. Some people use people, unfortunately. Leaders try to help develop people and help them become the best version of themselves. The boss takes the credit. Leaders give the credit. Always recognize people. It's not your field training. It's what that person did because they learned from your field training, and give them the credit. When they give you the credit, give it back always. Bosses place the blame. It's always someone else's fault. Leaders accept the blame and move forward. Bosses say go, leaders say let's go. And bosses, my way is the only way. And right now we're in such a unique program and strength and unity, and we work as a team. And this region is amazing where we're going right now. What I want to share with you is the opportunity has never been greater in our business. We have a great opportunity for you guys to succeed and to grow as an individual. There's a quote I have on all my emails, and it's there because it means a lot to me. And it's like, be the change you want to see in the world. And the ability to help someone grow and develop and build a team and build a business, learning how to build a business, learning how to help people grow, and creating opportunity for others and yourself for the future. And when you run your branch, the more you put into this, when you run your branch next year, the sky's the limit on what you can accomplish, because you're like, hey, I've done it. I've been a part of it, and I'm going to make it happen when it's my turn. Thank you guys. Have a great rest of the conference.